me, Sean Capri. I'm at home and you're listening to the Xbox Drive. And today we're going to review Halo Infinite. And I'm with my friend Ryan Turford. He's the man on the moose. And we brought another Canadian with us, Court Lalonde. So jump on in to the Xbox Drive.
Greater than X.
Hello, Sean Capri.
My voice did something weird there, Ryan. I did a little bit of a different intro. I'm in my basement. It's late at night. I grabbed our friend Court Lalonde. How are you doing, my friend?
I'm good. I think it's the acoustics. I think when you're in your car, you get the
I get great
sound
acoustics.
You do, because the sound is very a
lot of blankets in there.
Oh yeah, and there's the car seat in the back.
The car seats, yeah, seats on seats. We actually have like seats on top of seats in the car. So
it
yeah,
does
a lot
look
of,
a little messy.
cushion.
I'm not gonna lie.
Oh, it's a disaster, dude. It's an absolute disaster. You got to go back to the days when I had my own car, but that's a story for another day, my friend. I share this vehicle with too many people. But
That's past Sean's life.
Neither here nor there.
Exactly. Well, of
Thanks
course.
for judging, though. Son of a bitch.
Sean.
Listen. That's what friends do.
Fair.
So we have
Ryan.
Court Lalonde on the show, by the way. So Court, thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you for
folks
having me.
Who are brand new, who maybe have not, don't know who you are for some reason. Tell the fine folks at home, who you are and where they can find you on the internet, all that good stuff.
Well, you can find me on the Bird app at Court Lalonde, but I am a co-host of newly branded Xbox A, formerly Assemble XP. It's a daily Xbox news YouTube show. And it used to be a podcast, but I don't think it is anymore.
Yeah. I mean, you had me on, and then it just killed all the dreams of it ever being a podcast.
No, it has everything to do with we record a lot of content on a daily basis, and it's very hard to juggle in the podcast as well, considering we're shooting like 2, maybe 4 videos a day. It's tough.
My God. Well, everyone go check out Court and Matt. They make awesome content over on Xbox A. So check us out there. All the links will be in the show notes as well if you want to check out Court. Also, Court, you can hear him every week on the Xbox Drive. Court actually pretty much writes in a question every single week as well.
Good friend of the show.
Yeah, I try. And I also do watch it with my daughter in the mornings. I watch it on YouTube. I'm one of those YouTube people. I double dipped a couple weeks ago because I only watched half of it. So then I got to I listened to the rest while in my car. But I watch it on YouTube the next morning every single time.
My God. Well, of course.
And we've all met. We've all hung out. This is so cool, man. We all got to play Halo together. We're all Canadian. This is amazing, dude.
These are facts.
I am scared and excited all at the same time to do our review tonight, Ryan Turford.
Well,
it's the holidays.
You brought up a perfect segue, Sean, because here
You're
we
welcome.
are reviewing Halo Infinite's campaign. So not the multiplayer per se. We'll talk about maybe the multiplayer another day at some point. I think because we haven't really talked about it, but I feel like maybe that we save kind of the multiplayer for when the game is fully released as multiplayer as like an actual game. But we're talking about the campaign tonight. And then we can kind of, devote a whole show to the campaign. So before we get into it, of course, we want to say huge thank you to our friends over at Xbox Canada for providing us access to Halo Infinite ahead of launch so we can bring this content to you. So huge thank you to them for being, awesome supporters of the channel as well. Also, if you want to support us, there's a number of awesome ways to do that, of course. You can find us on your podcast feed of choice, Apple Podcasts, Google Play, Spotify. We're on all the things, so check us out there. Of course, subscribe there. Leave a 5-star review on Apple Podcasts, and we'll actually read that review on the show as well. Also, if you want to see our beautiful faces, head over to YouTube, youtube.com/Yumi Capri. We put up a video version of the show every single Thursday morning, as Court pointed out, where you can actually watch us, do the podcast that way. So, of course, like, subscribe, share, all the things that people on YouTube tell you to do. And last but not least, if you want early access to this and all of our shows, head on over to Patreon, patreon.com/Yumi Capri. Of course, throw a little tip in the old tip jar, and out comes content. All right. Guys, ready to do this? Ready to talk about Halo Infinite? I'm so excited to talk about this with you guys tonight. How pumped are you?
I played the crap out of this game, Ryan Turford. I want to get some of this stuff out of the way. We got this game quite a bit earlier than maybe I was anticipating. We knew it was coming up. We got to schedule time to go ahead and play that, so that was kind of nice. I've been big on this lately. I have finished the campaign. There's a little tracker in it that says how much you've completed. I don't think I've completed nearly as much as you have, but we'll get into what that all kind of refers to. But I really do feel like I played this game under a review kind of schedule in the same way that I would if the game came out and I was like with everybody else. I would have dumped 4 or 5 hours a night into this thing just like I did. I feel like, and I actually finished the game earlier than I anticipated. We weren't going to record this for another couple nights. Thought I would need more time. I just like went at it, man. Like I really, really did. So game is completed, rolled credits, got the full experience out of this thing. So I was really excited. Court, how about you, man? Like, how was your sort of like review experience kind of thing?
So this was my second review. So Psychonauts 2 was my first via Xbox Canada. I am a clear map type person. And I messaged Ryan. I think he let me know how far I was. And I realized I needed to record today for Xbox A. So I mainlined the story. I am a big Ubisoft fan. And I'm not comparing this game to Ubisoft. I don't want to do that because it's just things on the map. I
think we'll discuss like the differences. There's definitely differences.
We'll get there.
I like ticking things off on the map, and this definitely has that. And so I didn't do all of it, and also the logs. I didn't collect all of them, and even though I thoroughly enjoyed them, it's actually one of my favorite parts of the game because I'm a huge story-driven player, and I felt the way they put these in the game was one of the best I've ever seen in a video game because it didn't detract from the story and actually continued the story. So for me, I am extremely excited to replay this game on Wednesday and take my time with it.
Yeah, Ryan, talk about why we're all probably going to be replaying this game.
Yeah, so I mean, the build that we had, the early build that we have access to, was like a separate review build from the actual game. So we won't actually be able to carry our saves over to the full game. And if you go to our achievement list, they'll be blank because we haven't actually been able to get any of the achievements. So we'll be playing along with everyone else on Wednesday next week. And as for me, like I actually am kind of like you, Sean, where I actually approached this review.
You crushed this game, dude.
Yeah, he destroyed it.
I did okay. But I actually played it, in the same way though I normally would have if I was playing it on my own, where I wasn't, forcing myself to continue playing it. Like I crushed it because I was playing for like 5 or 6 hours straight, 3 nights in a row, and managed to finish it. And I actually would have probably gone for 100% of the game if I actually knew our saves were going to carry over. I think, honestly, my final percentage was very high anyways, and we'll talk about that a little bit later.
Mine was not.
Neither.
So no. I think, like, I'm so excited to go back and kind of, when I'm kind of itching to replay this game, like, that's when I'm going to go back, replay it, and kind of, get all, like, all the stuff and do for the 100%.
Same. Like, I thoroughly enjoyed my time, and I know I messaged our group chat, and Ryan had just said, what he did. And I'm like, oh my God. But I mainlined it, but I even said, and Ryan even said, I know in our chat was like, I understand, but I had no choice. Like I was taking too long.
Yeah.
Like I have a funny feeling that I'm going to start this on Wednesday and I'm going to play it for about a month and I want 100% it. I want it all. I want the whole game done. I'm going to only play this game. I'll play other games on the side. I'll play multiplayer with you on Saturday nights, but I'm only playing this game for the month of December.
So I'm sensing, actually, I'm surprised at you. I don't know where we're going to go with this. I don't know where everybody says. I have a feeling Ryan is pretty positive on this. I know that I'm pretty positive. I'm very curious on where you are on this court. But I was surprised at the hour count on this a little bit, given that it is open world, given that the first time we ever saw that map, it's like, well, that's Far Cry for Halo, and we'll talk about that, I think, a little bit. But my gameplay time was about 12 hours, but I still got a lot more to do. I still have like things to find. There's discoverable stuff all over the map, but very similar to you, Court. Like I was really enjoying it, but then, I kind of wanted to, I wasn't so much like changing my playstyle because of like the review stuff. It was more because nothing carries over, right? So I wasn't really incentivized to like scour the map for absolutely everything, but I am stoked to get over there. So that's sort of like my high level, Ryan. Like I really, really like this game and pretty much all the components to it. With that said, I think that there are some things that we can pick apart. Yeah. And I think many people, when they get their hands on it, they'll have the similar opportunity to pick some of the parts about it. It just depends on how nitpicky I think some people will be about it. It's also worth mentioning that the build that we've got, no co-op. Yep. It wasn't anything special for us. It's going to be the same as everybody else. I think that has to be said, that this game is coming in hot on both the campaign and on the multiplayer. This was delayed for a year, and when I say it shows, like I kind of want that to be within the context of like the things that kind of are missing, but it doesn't really impact like the gameplay. I think what people are seeing on the multiplayer side is similar on the campaign. The gameplay is rock solid, and I personally believe that the story is excellent. I think it's super intimate, and they've gone completely back on what they maybe got wrong with, or in some people's minds, with Halo 5. This is a Master Chief story. This is like, there's no ifs, ands, or buts about it. There's no way around it. This is Master Chief through and through. So I think a lot of people are going to be happy about that. And then there's a lot more to explore, Ryan, I think.
Yeah.
It's the best Halo game since Halo 3.
Whoa.
Well, but
Like, no,
I
without
guess
question
that's
for
true.
me.
Yeah, I guess that's...
I literally just played the whole Master Chief collection in preparing for this game. I had a hard time playing 5 again, and I did. Because I'm a very story-driven person, so that game just annoys me. This, I really found the story to be great.
Yep.
But, and I have a but.
I know, there's going to be a but. Lots of buts.
There's always going to be a but. I didn't like the level design to get to certain parts. The monster closet after monster. One easy monster closet, and then I go through a hallway, up a stair, up a hallway, down a stair, over an elevator.
Bridge elevator.
Power cell. Ooh, I hate power cells.
Gotta find batteries.
And then get to another monster closet with the harder enemies. Because I thought the story was that good that they didn't need that. And maybe that's I hate saying a 3-4-3 trope, because it felt very similar to the games that I just played. And I messaged Ryan about this, and I was like, it feels a little bit like this game was made so it could be played on the Xbox One. And Ryan reminded me it was.
Yeah.
I thought that more like this is a Halo game. Like I felt like, and maybe that just brings it back a generation or two or whatever, but it seemed like, I think I was talking to Ryan about this kind of off air, how, remember when you played Ocarina of Time, you got into Hyrule Field and you're like, this is amazing, it's gigantic. And then you look back and you're like, oh, how cute and quaint. Right? And you think back to Combat Evolved and it's like, this game is huge and it's massive, and you explore it, and you look back and it's like, it's not really, like, compared to the open world stuff that we're used to now, like, that's not it. But it does, I feel like, kind of bridge that gap of gigantic, probably too big, which is like Far Cry and Assassin's Creed and things like that. That brings you in. Actually, I would say it's kind of similar to Horizon Zero Dawn in that way. There are definitely like areas where you've got to go into like a corridor that then unlocks kind of a bigger area as well. But Ryan, you unlocked a wasp. Like, you were flying around this map as well.
Yeah.
So you got all the FOBs?
Yeah, I actually maxed out. And actually, you can go over the max amount, because I think they're going to add stuff eventually to that system.
Oh, let's preface and say they're definitely, like, this game is made so you can.
Well, they actually announced it ahead of time, so we actually know that 343's plan with Halo Infinite is not for there to be a Halo Infinite 2 that comes after this. Like, the idea is this game is going to be updated throughout its life with more campaign missions.
That's
as well as more
awesome.
content to then continue the story from there. So,
and sorry, I just wanted to correct. I didn't mean the map I meant the loading screens is what made me think it was an Xbox, because that's what I messaged Ryan. I was like, there's a lot of loading screens.
Sometimes it surprises you with a loading screen. You're like, really?
For no reason.
Yeah.
Well,
at least they weren't the Ninja Gaiden Black loading screens, where if you play that game on Xbox Series X, it takes a minute and a half to load sometimes, because it has like a fake loading screen in there that's built in for the original Xbox, which is just very silly when you play it now today. So
fair enough.
I imagine it's
so. The game is good. I'm excited for people to play it. Ryan, set the stage for us, my friend. What's happening here? What's Master Chief doing?
So first off, with the story, we don't want to go deep with this, because I know that we don't want people to be spoiled with the story or anything like this.
Definitely
we want this
not.
to be a spoiler-free review, because I mean, we pretty much handle all of our reviews that way. But you're playing as Master Chief, and it kind of picks up where we saw Master Chief in kind of the very first trailer, where essentially he's rescued out in the middle of space by basically a UNSC Pelican pilot, essentially, who's kind of like drifting through space. And he finds Master Chief, brings him on board, and there he finds out that he's near Zeta Halo, which is basically this Halo ring that isn't fully complete, because there's basically this destroyed section of the ring. And basically Master Chief and the Pelican pilot go down there because they're basically chasing down the Banished, which is one of the brute kind of factions that we saw in Halo Wars, which is really cool. So if you actually played Halo Wars 2, there's actually a lot of nods to that game as well. So it's important to kind of the story if you played that, because I definitely think that they do a lot of nice nods to people who actually played Halo Wars 2. So the Banished are on the ring. They're trying to basically put it back together and activate it. So Master Chief's going down there, trying to take him out. And that's pretty much all we're going to kind of say about the story. But that's what you're doing in this game. You're driving around Zeta Halo. You're taking out banished bases, and there's a bigger plot beyond that. But again, we're not going to go into that here. So obviously,
it kicks off, Ryan, with like some amazing, just really good Steve Downes lines in this. Like, I only need one bullet, or that's enough. I need a weapon. Like, there's so much Master Chief fan service in this. Like, even the shots, even the armor. I think the design of Master Chief is a callback. I think he is the star of the show, only to maybe be outdone by perhaps my new favorite character of the damn year, Weapon, as we come to know her, the new AI that is paired up with Master Chief. We've seen her with her cute little face and her like expressions, and she's kind of like, oh, I'm new.
Yep.
I am like in all the like a totally platonic way, like one should be with a computer AI that exists in a computer game. I am in love with this character, man. Throughout the entire thing, I was so hooked on this new relationship as Master Chief is not with Cortana in this adventure. I don't think that's a spoiler to say. We saw what happened with the 5th game, and yeah, I think that the character work here is excellent, and I love the Banished as the villain. I think that any good hero needs a good villain. And the other thing that I would say on this too is this kind of gives me a sense that like we wanted to explore with Master Chief, like that he is a little bit flawed, I would say. What happens when Master Chief makes mistakes? I think even the pilot you mentioned asked him at one point, like, when have you ever failed? And he gives a couple like pretty massive examples. And it's like, damn, this dude he's got a lot on his mind. And so I think that they did a lot of great character work while mixing in open world elements, while still feeling Halo, while still like advancing where this game has been in the past 5 games. Like this is not our old Halo game. It definitely feels different. It feels evolved, if I may. But I don't know. They managed to strike like a really good balance with this character work and all of this kind of stuff. Court, where were you at with it, dude?
I really enjoyed Master Chief in the Weapon. Their relationship. At one point, I was Master Chief. I was like, geez, he's mean. Like, what a jerk. Like, what's wrong with this guy? I wish that they did more development with the pilot. To be honest, it was to me that the beginning, and then all of a sudden he's the pilot that we all saw in the trailer.
Yeah.
I'm like, oh, okay. And then there was things where I wish there was more character development with him, because I thought he was a pretty cool character that they could do a lot more with.
Yeah.
But I also really enjoyed the story with the Banished and the other enemies throughout. I felt it was very good. And that's where those audio logs came in.
Yeah.
I thought those audio logs gave so much backstory to every single character that Master Chief would eventually face throughout the story. And it was the first game that I felt that I was finding these audio logs purposely, because I was like, well, I want to hear more.
Yeah.
I want to hear more of the story. And the way they were doing it is you'd be walking a hallway and that audio log would be playing, and it wouldn't mess with your gameplay.
Yeah, classic BioShock stuff for sure.
Yeah, and those audio logs like really reminded me of the audio logs in a game like The Last of Us, where it was like they were so interesting and you learned so much about the world and everything else. To Court's point, like, yeah, I went out of my way to go find them. Like anytime you go to a place on the map, it tells you how many audio logs are in that encampment, and sometimes they're UNSC audio logs, so the humans are talking on them, or sometimes they're Banished ones, and you kind of learn more about the Banished and you know what type of things they value and stuff like that. So yeah, I thought a lot of them were like really interesting, especially because one of the elements in the world that I thought was cool about this game was the targets of interest, which were basically like elite units essentially that you go and take out, and you actually learn about them through the audio logs as you take some of the bases. So it was cool to kind of, put those two together, because you got more, information as to why like these two cool hunters are, had like rose to fame, I guess, within the Banished. So
yeah.
And I also like the ones that you would find near the Fallen Spartans that would give you upgrades. Because You can upgrade yourself.
You upgrade.
Yeah,
Thank
it's amazing.
you. It's so good. It makes so much sense, and it is just exactly the upgrades you want. Thank you, Corey. I cut you off, but I was really excited to bring that up, man. That is so awesome.
Yeah, that was one of the best parts about the game. I did wish that I could upgrade my weapon to give me a bigger clip, but that's just me being used to video games now, right? Like that's something they put in video games, but not in a Halo game. I'm happy we could run, and I'm happy I could upgrade my shields. But I really like the audio logs that were beside the Fallen Spartans. That when you were getting, because they gave you this history of this Spartan that you're getting this skill from, and I thought whoever wrote them. Well done. They did such a good job because it brought you into the story. So like you were walking, you were just like, you hear it and you're walking and you'd just be like, oh my God. Like you felt that fallen Spartan. You felt who they were.
I think it reminds me of like the Hunt the Truth podcast. Like we didn't really get one of those leading up to this game. Anybody remembering that from Halo 5? There was a wonderful podcast leading up to it. So there's great writing and there's great lore within the Halo world, of course, and performances and everything. And that, man, I am totally with you on this. I think like pretty much on every element, however you slice it, whether it's the world or the characters you mentioned, you wish that there was more with the pilot. Some people might be wishing there was more with pretty much everything. I think there's going to be two camps on this front. I think some people will say, and I'm in this camp, I appreciate the discipline that they showed, because if they try to do too much, then the game kind of gets away from itself. And what it needed to be was a Master Chief story, and it is a Master Chief story. It still needed to be a Halo game. So could they have gotten more elaborate skill trees? Probably. Could they have had a larger world? Probably. More characters, those types of things. But I'm in the camp that I like. It seemed like they were practicing discipline. Some people might say they ran out of time, which maybe they did, or for whatever other reason, more of a detractor to the game. But I was really appreciative of there were hints and almost like this is the new era of Halo, Ryan. Like I really enjoyed that they were giving us a little bit extra stuff, but not too much, because we still needed it to be a Halo game, my friend. Yeah, I think that the pacing itself with both the storytelling and the gameplay is like perfect. Like that's one of the reasons it starts out exactly like a Halo game. Yeah. It doesn't start out open world, man. It's like you get basically two levels. It's like this is Halo 2. They make you work for it. They don't give it to you right away, which again I think is the perfect way to go about it. Like that's one of the reasons why I felt so compelled to keep going through the game, was like I didn't really feel like the game had like a lull or a dull moment, both in the storytelling and the open world gameplay. And I felt like it was the perfect. Did you guys find any skulls? I did. Yeah, I found one skull. I found a great, I won't spoil it, but a great Easter egg. Yeah. No, I definitely won't, but there's a great Easter egg to be found. I'm thinking there's a bunch of Easter eggs to be found. Like that's one of the things I want to go do on Wednesday, where once I get to Zeta and I get to the open world part. Yeah. Because you can traverse because that grappling hook's the greatest thing ever. Like, oh my gosh, yes. It feels so good. It feels like a grappling hook, like should. And you upgrade that. You upgrade your shield, which is absolutely essential. You upgrade your grappling hook. For people listening, upgrade your shields and then upgrade your grappling hook and then move on to everything else. You're pretty much good. Get those upgraded, because the shocking of the grappling hook when you can upgrade it, amazing. But I want to be able to climb up, because I was able to do it. In one section, I was climbing up the pillars, and I just kept going. I'm like, okay, so they're going to let you climb wherever. If you see it, you can get there. So I want to see, because I have a funny feeling they might have put in some really cool Easter eggs to salute Halos of the past in this game somewhere. Yeah, big time. Well, that's not anything new either. Like they've done that in previous games as well. So and definitely any Easter eggs you might have seen in some of the other Halo games, like expect to see similar stuff in this game as well. But kind of to round out our thoughts about the story, so we can kind of move on to the gameplay, since again, we can't really go into specifics anyways about the story. Overall, I think it sounds like all three of us are pretty positive about it. Again, like there are little nitpicky things with the story, but honestly, I think it's one of the best written Halo games ever. Like it's definitely and straightforward. I think it's deep, and also like I think that I've heard some people kind of go like, I've never really. Some people don't follow the Halo lore. There's a lot of like intricacies to it. I think this is pretty straightforward, but also really impactful. Every character matters. Everybody who has lines and dialogue in this, I think matters. I really like the interactions with these characters and everything. So yeah, man, I could go on. I want to do a spoiler cast at some point.
Yeah.
Not today, obviously.
Yeah, because I want more. Like I now play it and I'm like, okay, I want more. Like I totally get a lot of things with the multiplayer now. A lot more. Yeah, like we.
Oh, should we talk about that?
Well,
We're
we
gonna
can.
get to that
So that's not a spoiler.
second.
Yeah,
Okay.
we'll get to that, but that's not a spoiler.
Agreed.
Yeah. Overall, I think we all agree. Story is fantastic. So if you
Really
like
good
Halo
story.
stories,
Well written.
you're going to really like this game, I think. So let's move on to the gameplay and kind of talk about kind of the open world itself before we kind of break down some of the combat mechanics. So the open world, as you've heard us kind of allude to at least a little bit, not as big as we were all kind of thinking going into it. Like it almost kind of reminded me of like 3 of the smaller open world sections in something like, Rise of the Tomb Raider that are kind of just all strung together.
Very good point.
Because essentially you're not able to go through the whole open world at the very beginning of the game.
Right.
It's actually locked off by bridges. So as you progress through the story, you'll actually like unlock a new area on the open world map. And that's kind of how you progress through the open world to the point where by the end of the game, you've got the full open world kind of available to you at that point, and you can go do everything you want in it at that point.
Yeah, and there's even a point where you get locked in that section and you can't go anywhere for a little bit.
So it kind of reminded me almost of a blend of Rise of the Tomb Raider with the open world stuff that I just mentioned and a traditional Halo game. Like those 2 ideas basically like mishmashed together, because I really feel like the campaign levels that you go on through this game feel like traditional campaign levels from Halo. Like to a T.
It's literally what I was writing down right now. I wanted to come back to it. Thank you, Ryan. We were wondering about this. We were talking about this not too long ago on the Xbox Drive, but how are they going to do this? How are they going to do an open world, but still have like story beats and have those missions really matter and have impact? I don't really want to do too much comparing to like a Far Cry, but I kind of have to in this case because Far Cry missions kind of just seem to happen like in the world. They could happen in some cases. I feel like they could happen anywhere. In this case, you really go into a mission. Usually it's in some, what did you call them, monster caves, Court? Like you usually go into some sort of structure. I got that from Steve
Vigvari. It was a very good description. He was like, well, you go from one monster cave to the other monster cave that was a little bit harder because you're literally above the world, and then to go do the missions, you go underground.
Totally. Yeah, which I think is actually a smart design element to
exactly,
this.
because you still get the open world when you capture these FOBs throughout, which I would do because you get the fast travel from those.
Yes.
That gives you that open world Far Cry-y feel, let's say, because you're capturing the base. But that also helps you upgrade, and it helps you be better. Like if it wasn't for me talking to Ryan at one point, I was like, oh, I got to go back and do all this so that I can upgrade my shields and get in there so I don't get destroyed.
Yeah. And those FOBs are very serviceable. Like they actually do a lot for you. They are the fast travel thing, but they're a base of operations. You can go get your weapons. You can catch a ride, Ryan Turford.
You get vehicles, and quite possibly the best vehicle in all of gaming, Sean, the Gun Goose.
The Gun Goose, yes, thank you. Well, I was going to say, the Mongoose was created in the lore of Halo for this game.
Yeah.
It's the first vehicle you get to go on, and there's a big old open world for you to go traverse on. But yes, they mount a gun to this sucker, and they call it the Gun Goose, and oh my God, this thing is amazing, dude.
Dude, it shoots rockets. It's a Mongoose that shoots rockets. Like, that's a Ryan Turford vehicle. Like, that, if I've ever seen one right there. Like, as soon as I unlocked that, Sean, like, that's all I was driving until I unlocked the flying vehicle.
Well, see, it's hilarious to say that because as soon as I found a ghost, I would grapple hook and I would steal it and I would just mow down everybody with that thing. Because that thing, the ghost was... It was like the FOB killer. You can just circle everybody and destroy the whole thing because you can aim. But that's one thing I want to get. The aiming was very precise and very well done on the gun mechanics. Like it was very well done. Like I learned very easily from you guys to shoot in the chest first. Shields go down, pop them with a headshot. But even when I was far away and I was using, say, the sniper rifle, the range and the feel on it was very good.
Oh my gosh, there's so much to unpack, man.
That's something that
Ryan went. Sorry, I just want to quickly say because we're talking about the vehicles.
Of course.
And especially because it's in the early goings where traveling around is a little bit more difficult, a little bit more challenging. But if you see a Banshee flying over top of you, like you shoot at it and you're like over here, like you're like waving the flare like in Jurassic Park. You're like throwing it over here, like come back, like come attack me so I can steal your Banshee because I'd like to fly to the other side of the map. Yeah, man. Like moments like that are all over the place. And then I think where you're going with this too is like the guns are excellent and somehow they manage to kind of have like they kind of force a bit of the variety that they've always done with the Halo games in this giant open world. Like I don't know how they managed to really do that. Like you really have to explore the full arsenal of weapons that they throw at you. You can go to up top, and probably there's going to be some dead Marine up there with a sniper rifle that he's dropped, or a rocket launcher, something super helpful for you. But
I learned the skewer is my favorite weapon of all time.
Oh,
like I
so
can't wait
good.
to play multiplayer and be like, I know how to use this thing. This thing is the destroyer of everything.
Yep.
Because that weapon that got me through a lot of tough times.
Yeah, you're counting on it.
Yeah. I actually think the weapons are really well done, although I would actually disagree with your guys' points about having to explore the whole arsenal, because I will say one of my secrets that I kept from you guys is I actually did not explore
Cheat
the whole
codes.
arsenal. I basically had 2 weapons the entire game, and that's what I kept. So,
But you run out of ammo. Like, what do you mean? It's like
You run out of
life
ammo
finds
a
a
lot.
way, Sean. Life finds a way. So first off,
This is-
something that's actually new in this game that I
Yeah.
really liked was there are actually ammo boxes that you can find in all of the areas usually where there's combat. Whether you're taking over an FOB, or you're doing one of the side missions, or you're
Yeah.
in a mainline mission, you'll usually find one somewhere along the way. But if guns ran out of ammo, my solution was not to go pick up another gun, because I really liked my set of guns. It was instead to use the grappling hook and the charge punch, which are 2 upgrades you get, to just mow down enemies with punching them. Like, I don't actually think that I've ever played a Halo game where I've punched so many people in the face that I did in this game, where like, if there was a counter for kills for how many melee kills I had in this game, it would be over half of my kills in this game were melee kills versus gun kills at this point. Because I was playing it like Doom 2016 or something like that, where I was like being super aggressive,
That's
using
really
the grappling
funny.
hook and punching people. Even before I got like the charging punch upgrade, I would then just use the grappling hook to grapple towards someone and then just melee them a bunch of times. Because
Well, especially the enemies with the shields, right? Because it would
Yeah.
knock the shields off.
Exactly, because
Will-
then
will
you
trick
could,
people.
they'd like try and parry your grappling hook, but then it would like stun them for a second. So you just use your grappling hook again immediately after to just go in close and punch them. But
even the jackals, like you say shields, but like they're physical shields. Like it'll knock it away. If you shoot
Yeah.
your grappling hook at it, it'll just like kind of it'll flail,
yeah,
and
they'll
then you
get
can
like
really get at them.
they'll get like stunned essentially,
Yeah,
and then
so good, man.
It allows you
And,
to go in
and
for the
to
kill.
everybody, to Ryan saying that you can find it, there's sonar,
Yep.
which was really cool.
Oh, that is great. Yeah. Well, and really, like a lot of what you see in multiplayer, I don't think there was a single gun here that I haven't used before. There was nothing specific to campaign. All the power ups, all your little shield thing that pops up.
But Sean, what about the armor?
What about it?
What about the armor? You mentioned multiplayer, and there's things that you don't get to use.
Well, I
There
was going to say, actually, there is one upgrade in multiplayer that we don't get in single player, and that's the counter
Yes.
like gauntlet thing that you wear,
Oh,
where
right,
essentially
right,
you can
that's
put it
true,
up to
that's true.
deflect a
Good point.
shot. But
Yeah.
everything else from multiplayer, all the upgrades from multiplayer are there, like the shield wall, the grappling
Yeah.
hook, the sonar, the
Safe
dodge.
thrust.
They're all
Safe
there.
thrust.
But everybody that is loving their multiplayer, but would love some armor,
Yeah.
just go play the campaign.
Play the
right away.
campaign. Yes, yes. Dude, it was so funny because we recorded the Xbox Drive earlier this week, and then of course more conversations are happening about what the multiplayer situation is, and everybody's mad about the progression, blah blah blah. And it's like they tie them in together. There's stuff.
Yep.
There's what do they call? Like there's
So
armor
there's
packs.
armor, so-
Milnar armories that you find throughout the world.
Thor.
Yeah.
Thor's
And
hammer.
essentially
Pretty
you
much.
find
But-
multiplayer like armor pieces and
Yes.
nameplates and all kinds of stuff. So there's actually
I
like,
found a whole full suit of armor. Like in one that I went in, it told me it was going to be a multiplayer. I knew it wasn't going to be there, but it was a full armor suit. I was like,
Yeah.
like, wow, like they did such a good job of pairing the two together. That now I totally understand, even releasing it early, that it was a beta and I also totally understand why they gave us the version they gave us, because we
Yep.
couldn't go into multiplayer and run around with these crazy things, right?
Yeah, yeah.
People would have been like, where did he get? People notice everything in Halo multiplayer. So if we were all running around in this armor no one's seen before, they were like, what is going on?
Yeah,
But
man.
I did notice, like when we first signed in, if you noticed, our everything showed up from the multiplayer up in the top right corner.
Yep.
So it showed me my battle pass. It showed me everything. And then it was like, oh, no one from your fire team is here. And I'm like, oh, you were wanting to do this build had co-op.
Yeah.
You could tell they tested it out. Like, it won't be in the final game because we know it's not there, but it was in our build because it said it in the top right corner.
Yeah. I mean, part of me wonders too if when the co-op does drop, and maybe we alluded to it a little bit earlier, like I kind of hope that they pair it up with more content.
Yeah.
Right? Because the bulk of it is this game won't take people long to finish.
No.
People will finish this campaign very quickly.
Because we had a group of about 6 people who were all doing the review at the same time. And I don't think any of us took longer than 12 hours to finish.
Yeah.
If memory serves. So
Yeah, I was just over 12 hours.
Yeah, like you can really push it. Yeah, I think, and with achievements and everything else, like that might change things a little bit. You might want to explore a little bit more, but I think that
100%.
this is really smart in terms of just this is maybe the most multiplayer that we'll talk about, but the multiplayer is free to play. And there is more to be had by playing the campaign. So there is a bit of a lure there for, if you come in the free to play multiplayer, like, you might want to go, shell out the $60 for, or $80 if you're here, or become part of Game Pass so you can play the campaign too. There's definitely a pull, and I thought that was really smartly done. And vice versa. If you're only a single player person, you're finding this multiplayer stuff anyways, you might want to go check it out over multiplayer. So
they did sort of mention that there's going to be these bonuses for Game Pass members, and then there are possibly bonuses tied to the campaign. And then they also so I have a funny feeling they're going to, when they do, as you said, put new missions into the campaign, as they do new playlists and do new ideas, as they were mentioning today on Twitter, then you're going to get stuff for the multiplayer. It just makes sense. They want you to go to both. They want these things both to be infinite, right? There's a name there for a reason.
Yeah, like the campaign and the multiplayer are so much more tied together than like we've ever seen from Halo before. And I actually think it's a great thing, especially, again, if they're going to do this iterative idea with the campaign, like that's the perfect way to keep people coming back. Like people are coming back already for multiplayer.
We can do Halo Saturday forever.
Yeah. Halo Saturday infinitely, one would say. See what I did
Don't
there?
set an end date on those calendar invites, just keep them going forever.
Yeah. But overall, I think the open world itself, just to kind of round out our thoughts on that, I think it's really well done. I think that it's really well populated with a ton of things to see and do. You will actually get some recon on some of the stuff on the map when you take over a forward operating base. They'll basically like plot little things on your map there around your area, but they don't plot
zoom
everything.
But you got to still zoom in. You have to zoom in because if you don't, it doesn't show up.
Right.
That's right.
But it doesn't map everything for you. Some of that stuff you actually have to find in the open world. So it gives you kind of some stuff to start with. But then you're like, oh, what's that tower over there? Let me go over there and go investigate it. It's like, oh, it's a propaganda tower. And as you do things in the open world, you earn a currency called Valor. And that basically unlocks new things for your forward operating bases, because your forward operating base, to what Sean was talking about before, can actually spawn vehicles and weapons. And as you earn Valor, you can spawn more and more stuff in your base. So you actually get access to basically the entire suite of weaponry if you actually complete all of the Valor, as well as all of the vehicles, including a bunch of upgraded vehicles like the Rocket Warthog or the Gun Goose or the Wasp. And then you can basically
different
spawn
Marines. It looks a lot like a battle pass.
It does.
Like in you're earning XP. Valor is kind of like an XP kind of thing.
Yeah.
And as you do more, you get more awesome stuff in your FOBs, your FOB. They become much more crucial to your like really taking the world over. I would say, Court.
Now, when we're talking about the open world, I want to put one caveat into something that I hope they add later, which is photo mode.
Oh, yes. Good call.
Because it does look beautiful. You can get up into the certain ranges, and I was like, oh, this would be great. And I'm just taking I have a ton of screenshots that are going to show up in they're on my console. I'm not going to do anything with them right now, but they're there. But, oh, man, photo mode, I hope it comes. How did you play quality or performance mode? Because I played in quality mode because it seemed to run perfectly fine. I'm not able to count frames with my eyeballs, but it seemed to be fine. Well,
I flipped it to performance mode for a quick second, and it looked not very good, I will say. I noticed.
So it's funny you say that because my TV I can check. So Matt and I were both flipping back and forth. I really wish I tried it on the S. That was one of my things that I wanted to do, and I didn't do it. So we were checking quality and performance. Now, frame rate wise, on quality, there was a dip in frame rates. So when you're doing quality mode, it would go down to, instead of 120, it would go to like 114, 113. It would chug in some areas.
Yeah, like it was almost like an uncapped frame rate versus
I know, but
frame rate.
it would do that. It was a noticeable difference. So I played on performance. For the whole time.
Man! I thought that the visual quality took a hit there. I had there for like 4 minutes. I'm like, I gotta go back.
On my OLED, I'm not. It looked beautiful.
Damn. Okay, very nice. Well, I just wanted to know. Yeah, I think that it's different.
If it's a shooter and I'm doing something like that, I need the frames per second now.
Usually, me too.
I'd become that guy. I'd become that guy.
I was gonna say I was actually that guy too. So.
Did you do performance, Ryan?
So I did performance, but I'm in a unique situation, Sean, because as you know, I don't have a Series X at the moment. So I played this game mostly on Xbox One X and not on Series S.
A 1X. Oh, 1X. Snap, bury the lead. Oh,
so
wow.
I actually played in performance mode on One X, which actually ran at 1080p at 60 frames per second with no dips.
That's wild, dude.
But
Holy
you
cow.
know, I thought it was actually a good exercise because one, when we do our reviews,
that's for
we're
sure.
mostly doing. Well, no, the thing is, Court. Going back to your point about it maybe being an Xbox One game, it ran great on One X. Like I didn't have performance dips at all. Like it looked pretty
That's
good.
so cool.
And it ran perfectly fine. Like no dips during the entire game, regardless of what chaos I had going on the screen. So I
what
think
about
it's
load
actually a
times
testament to it.
when you die? What about load times? There's sometimes when you have like levels to do a thing that
So
give
you
you a
had load
load
times,
screen?
but it was like I was back in the game but in like 3 seconds. So it wasn't even that long.
Wow, that's super interesting. Yeah, I'd love to see some comparisons on that.
Yeah, because I compared it
awesome.
because I tried it on Series S as well because I do have a Series S, but I was like, you know what? I've got the One X anyways that I'm using. Why not just play it mostly on this to kind of give like a different take on the game?
Very wow. Yeah.
Yeah. So when I compared the two as far as the loading times, there was obviously some difference between Series S and One X, but it wasn't backbreaking. Like it wasn't like Bloodborne load times or something like that.
Seriously, that VCR sounds loud.
Mm-hmm. Right. Whereas my One X was totally fine. So I'm actually glad that I played it that way because also we can tell people if you've got a One X and you haven't upgraded yet because it's hard to find Series X's, don't worry about it. It looks and plays great on One X. So definitely
I would say it's
great.
not hard to find a Series S. Go out and get one of those.
Yeah.
It's the better console. I literally just did a comparison video on it and we went toe to toe with the two. The Series S is the better console.
Yeah. It just depends on some of the games as far as like if it has One X enhancements, like if you're playing like back compat Xbox games, for example, like the One X actually like runs circles around the Series S. But when it comes to, games that were built specifically with the Series
Halo. Bring it home, guys.
We're bringing it back. We're
That's what I'm
bringing it
saying.
back.
I would say it would look. I want to play it, so I'm going to be away when the game drops. So I'm going to be at a conference for work. I'm going to play Halo on the Series S to start my campaign.
Yeah. Well, yeah. So either way, the open world's pretty fun. I feel like the open world itself, one of the things I liked about it too is it wasn't too big, so it didn't feel like there was just a ton of fluff or anything like that. It goes back to something I was mentioning before where it just felt like the perfect length for a game like this, where I don't need, Far Cry 6 levels of, 60 hours in that open world. Like I feel like they did so much more in this kind of condensed open world that made me realize that, maybe you don't need, to pad the time with games like this.
Yeah, definitely not.
And it's good to have a game that doesn't take 60 to 70 hours. It's good to have a game that feels like you said before, Sean, a Halo game where I can go out and play it and have some fun with it. And I do see the replayability in this game to go back in the open world and just have some fun. So,
because I kind of want to do like that single player, almost like I mentioned, it has like a battle pass type of thing. I want to get to the end. I want to fly around in that Wasp. I want to get that is the Wasp the last thing? I feel like there's more beyond that.
The Rocket Warthog is the last thing you get.
I want that big time. Like I have that same sort of like, it's almost like a grind, I would say, in the single player thing. Because I was about to say, spend your 12 to 20 hours in the Halo campaign and then go play multiplayer. But I have to think about somebody like a Donnie Reese who has zero interest in multiplayer. And so for somebody like that, I think that there's lots to do here. There's lots of Halo to play, but it doesn't force you to do, 60, 70 hours into it. You can have a hell of a time in 12 hours. Very similar, actually, I would say, to like a Metroid as well. Yeah. If you really want to go scour, I think it's very similar in that way.
Or even just another Halo game. Like it feels in line with the rest of the series. Like it's longer. It's the longest Halo game, sure. But like the campaign, like if you're just playing the campaign levels, for example, like it feels like you're just playing a normal Halo game that just happens to have this big open world in the middle of it. So,
but I wanted to, when I finished, like, I don't know about you guys, when I finished like a campaign or a mission, a story mission, like I kind of wanted to just like, you escape from whatever structure and it feels like you've got a breath of fresh air. And I just want to go like stretch my legs out a little bit and stretch my arm, like go do something else. And you almost get like a palate cleanser with the open world. And then you jump back into a story mission. Like I'm ready for some meaty content here as well. Court.
Well, that's where the comparison comes to the Ubisoft games. Like we say Far Cry, but let's just say Ubisoft games because that's what they all do. But what 343 did is they're like, hey, we're not going to make you do it for 4 hours. You can go out and do it for 25 minutes if you'd like, and you can do some stuff out there and then go back and do the level again.
I just felt like the campaign, like the story missions felt different. They felt, I don't know, there was more of a gravitas to it. And even like they really dive into it. They usually reward you with some sort of story beat or cinematic or something. Like there's a different kind of reward than the gameplay reward that you would get for running around. And I just don't, I don't want to do too much of the comparison, but I just feel like it felt quite different. Almost like when I play like a Dragon Age game, I'm going in for a story mission. I'm expecting something amazing or a twist or something to happen at the end of it. And you're rewarded on that in this game, I would say.
Yeah, because they're not doing because they're not doing it in the open world itself. Like, they're able to be much more cinematic with the gameplay and with the storytelling because that's part of the reason why in most Ubisoft games they can't really do that because they can't account for where you, the player, are going to be at any given time. Whereas in this game, they kind of funnel you in specific areas so that the storytellers kind of know where you are as they're building the story. So,
and it could have been like 10 hours in between story beats and Far Cry or Ubisoft games. You could be so far in between, like it's hard to even remember like what's happening. Like the how contained this is, I think benefits the storytelling to a huge degree. You can't really go too far off before you go, I'll just go do another story mission. Like,
it's open world, but still linear at the same time. It's weird because as soon as you go under, you're in a linear, you're not going very far. Even though there are corridors, I did notice on some of the missions there was more than one way to get to where you needed to go.
Definitely.
I was like, oh, there's that hallway. So I turned back and I went and I was like, oh, and there's another monster closet there. There was a bunch of enemies in there. I'm like, okay, well, we'll go in and go through it.
So
yeah, man.
You brought up monster closet, so that actually transitions us nicely to something that I know you're itching to talk about, Court. So we have to talk about it, of course. And that's some of the bosses. So there are some bosses in this game. We're obviously not going to go into specifics about bosses or anything like that because we don't want to spoil anything. But Court, start us off because I know you got things to say about this. What do you think about the bosses in this game?
And I think maybe a lot of it has to do with the expectations that I got. If you remember when we watched the trailer and there's a scene where Chief is thrown and he goes through a tree. Now, I know now in the campaign what this is. I thought, oh my God, we're going to get cinematic boss fights. Now, not everybody likes them. I do. So I like, you grind a little bit and then there's cinematics and that's how it ends. And it's more theatrical.
Yeah, I'm agreeing with this.
Yeah, so the boss fights aren't that. And I thought I was getting that. And I thought based on the story and how well it was written, that it would have been better if they did that because almost the boss fights at some points took me out of the story. If that makes any sense. And that's just for me. That's just me personally. There was two specific boss fights where I'm like, you got to be like I was like, really? Like there was one because it was just such a small area and I'm like, it was just more frustrating. I'm like, I'm just, okay, I'm dying again. I'm one hit. I didn't get why they did it because the story was so great leading up to both of these boss fights.
Yeah.
And then all of a sudden I'm like, really? You just did this to me? Like I get it. But I thought, okay, this is 343 has had a lot of time. There's been a lot of years and they've seen things where you can make the story and they had such a good story. But that's just my opinion on those two specific, and I know you guys know exactly which boss fights they are. There was just two of them there. I'm like, all right, a little weird.
Well, they're sprinkled throughout, and whether you call them boss fights or even mini bosses or something like that, kind of like throughout. I really thought you were going to hammer home on like the difficulty spikes, which there are, and they vary throughout the game, whether it's an area or like you've got like basic training, and then you've got advanced training. Like that's sort of like what happens
Oh,
a
I
lot
played
of
it on
times from one
normal.
room to the next. No, but even just like the way that you progress through like the various
Like
structures or
areas,
even
yeah.
areas. Yeah, you'll have like sort of a bunch of grunts, and then the next area is like there's two
Yep.
hunters and all their friends. Like I think
Correct,
that
correct.
kind of happens in terms of difficulty spikes. I think some of the bosses and mini bosses are also examples of difficulty spikes here too. I'm glad that we're actually not like hanging on that for too long, but I agree 100% with what you surprised me with in your comments there, which was these characters that we're tracking down or we're fighting are big deals, man. They're ferocious, and they kind of come and go without too much fanfare. And I would like to savor that, like, I found you and this is a thing and we are gonna battle. And then when the killing blow happens, like I would kind of want something more, but they die just as unceremoniously as anybody
Yeah, they
else
just
on
fall
the
down.
battlefield.
And I'll be honest, when I was having a hard part, I would message Ryan, and Ryan would know. He'd be like, "Just do this," and I'm like, "Okay." And then it's not as hard, and I wasn't dying as much. So
Yeah.
I could have just said get good instead.
Oh,
didn't,
snap.
though.
Well, and that's why I didn't really want to like hang too much on difficulty, although it is a little bit frustrating, Court. I think you said it. You can't change the difficulty.
No, so yes, you cannot change it. So as someone who plays, and I call it baby mode for a reason, because in Bethesda, when you play on the easiest mode possible, they turn you into a baby. So
a little pacifier in your mouth.
yeah, which is fine. I like playing that because I've grown up playing harder games, and that's just my personal opinion. But for review, I decided to play this on normal because everybody else was, and there was that one open world boss fight with the two of them. That if it wasn't for Ryan, I got killed a lot there. And I was getting frustrated, and the difficulty spike was huge going into that.
Yeah.
And I also found it a little frustrating that if you died, you started with what you had. So like if I didn't have weapons, keep starting again with no gun, and I'm like, oh God, like you're killing me here. So I literally have to go around.
That's what the punch button's for. You got to punch
Exactly.
hard.
And also the grappling hook, and I learned where stuff was on the map to go get them and to finish that boss fight. But if it wasn't for Ryan giving me a little bit of hint on that boss fight, I probably would have still been at it for a while. And I was just like, why are you doing, like, I just didn't understand why all of a sudden you give me a Demon Souls boss fight out of nowhere.
It
Like,
wasn't a Demon Souls
Yeah.
boss
for me,
fight.
it's just,
It wasn't even as hard as like the
I'm using
Metroid,
it- I'm-
Metroid
it's-
bosses.
It was out of nowhere. It was just this huge difficulty spike on that. I was like, come on now, why are you doing this? Because the story was so good. If that
Not
makes
being
any
able
sense.
to change the difficulty is so strange.
Yeah.
I think like why lock you in on that? That's got to be an adjustment coming.
Yeah, I actually agree with that too. And I mean, you weren't able to adjust it in mid-campaign in previous Halo games, but you could just quit out and then you start from the mission select menu and then select the difficulty from there. So they always gave you a way to change it. You know, just you would have to start a level over again. But yeah, with an open world game like this, you have to offer that as an option for accessibility's sake. Because who wants to get 3 or 4 hours into a game, find it's too difficult, and want to start over again? Like,
Totally.
Hey, I'm
Nobody wants
proud
to
of
do
myself. This is the first game I finished on normal in forever.
I'm proud
I
of
can't
you
wait
too,
to play
Cord.
it on Legendary. Like that's going to be really fun. I think.
But see, that to me would be fun to play with a friend.
Yeah.
Like when that comes out, that's a good stream. Like, hey, Sean, let's do a Haley Saturday. Let's see how much we
Get your
can get
skulls going.
destroyed. Yeah. Just get
Because
destroyed.
I know the next time I replay it, I'm going to be playing on Heroic. Because I usually play Halo games on Heroic, but this time around for the review, I always play normal games.
This
games
guy.
on normal
Check
for
out this
review.
guy.
This guy's
But,
real good.
Yeah, I'm really excited to play on
Pro
the harder
strats.
difficulty modes because
I'm going to play on easy and get the 1,000 gamer score.
Same. Yeah.
There's that too. So now that we've talked about everything, it's time to kind of round out the conversation. So before we go to final thoughts, there's a question that Sean knows that I always ask whenever we do a review like this of a Game Pass game in particular. So I have to ask you, and I'm going to start with you, Court, because, I mean, especially because you already don't know that this question's coming and I want to surprise you. If the game wasn't on Game Pass, let's say for some reason you don't pay for Game Pass, maybe you don't care about multiplayer, maybe you don't care about Game Pass, do you think the campaign by itself is worth $60? Go.
Yes. Without question. The story alone was phenomenal. And see, that's the thing with me. I'm okay with an 8-hour game or a 12-hour game or even like an Artful Escape. I would have paid for that. I'm okay as long as the story is compelling and written very well. And it really was. The story was phenomenal.
Sean?
Yeah, I mean, I'm kind of in the same boat, and I don't necessarily. $60 means something different for every single person on the planet. For me, I feel like if you have an Xbox, or if you're even interested in the Xbox ecosystem, like this is kind of required gaming. Like it is so good on almost every level. I'm very curious to see where everybody else lands on this. I really do think that there's nitpicky stuff that we've kind of like glanced over because the overall gameplay experience is so good. But I think that this hits every note. Every time that like I got to a certain scene or a particular gaming combat moment and the music hits in, or I jump in a vehicle, or I'm like, oh, we're on it now. Like I felt awesome playing this game. And so like that's not a dollar valuation comment for me. It's like, should I play this game? Like figure it out. Like get Game Pass then, or buy the game. Like whatever, dude. Like whatever you have to do, play this game is kind of my put it like comment on the box kind of thing.
Absolutely.
Yeah, if you have an Xbox, you need to play the game.
You just play it.
Yeah. I agree with you both. Like, if you're new to Halo, I think this is the perfect place to start. If you're a Halo veteran, you're going to love it. So I think it's a win-win. Like, it's easily one of the best games I've played this year. And
same.
I'm so happy we decided to play this campaign.
And it gives a lot of history. Like, if this is your first Halo game, it catches you up on a lot. It's very well done on doing that. It's almost like the story is a tutorial of Halo.
Well, especially because of how long it's been since 5. Like, you know that there's going to probably be a lot of people jumping into this for the first time. So we know that you're out there. So whether you've got Game Pass or not,
for me.
I think it's worth every dollar that you pay for it. So definitely check it out. But final thoughts. Anything else that you guys want to cover before we wrap up? And we'll go to you first on this one, Sean.
Oh, I was going to throw it to Court because I feel like you had some notes on. Was there anything that we missed? We glanced over the things that were like frustrating for you at
audio
all?
logs we got. Frustration part is more on my personal play style, and I don't want to fault the game, and I'm not going to fault them on not having co-op, even though that to me is Halo, because they told me they weren't going to have whole lot co-op.
That's
going
true.
in.
I think it has to be part of the evaluation, though. It's like that is missing.
Yeah. So like if I'm going to give it. Okay, to me, and I know I told you this before, and I think you were shocked when I said this, I still think Forza was a better game, and this isn't going to be a game of the year, knock it out of the park, but I think it's going to be for every Xbox fan or anybody that likes Halo or likes a game like this is a very, very, very good game, but it's not a great game. I'm sorry, it isn't.
I think it is great, but it's feature incomplete, and I think that those can be separate. And this is where I think things will get a little divisive, either in this group or anybody else who plays it. And it depends on how much that impacts people's experience with it. People might open this package up and go like, "Ooh, where's this and where's this and where's this?" And that might make them go, "This isn't worth $60, or this isn't worth getting into Game Pass for." For me, that didn't matter at all because I wanted to play this game as a single player experience, and I felt like for me that was all there. But yeah, there's some people are going to notice gaps there, and there's just no way around it. And we've all watched this development over the last year and a bit, and it's all there. Like it's very clear. In some cases, it's very clear that this game needed every moment that it could get of development time.
It would have fallen on its face if it came out a year ago.
It would have been disastrous.
It would have been exactly. And like I said, I really enjoyed it. I'm extremely excited, and I truly think that my opinion of the game is going to change when I play it the way I want to play a game. Where I want to spend I have no problem playing one game for a whole month. I don't need to. I don't have. I got kids. I don't have to. I play only like an hour or two a day, so I have no problem spending that whole month and exploring the living daylights out of it, because that to me is fun. So, and then once I do that, I think that game is going to be in the upper echelons for me right now. But as of right now, I had a different experience because the way I played it.
Yeah,
dude, I just can't. I want to see those armor sets in multiplayer.
We didn't get a chance
go
to
back
see
and
them.
forth.
I
haven't even looked at them. Yeah, man. Like I really can't wait to replay this again. I can't wait to see what I missed the first time around. Like there's so much foreshadowing that it does. I think that'll be really interesting to play again. And I felt the same, to be honest. I felt the same with the Halo 5 and Halo 4. Like I replay those campaigns quite a bit actually. Yeah, I liked Halo 5. I just want to get in.
You're a Halo guy. There you go.
I love Halo 2, but
Halo 5 was a big
guy. Actually, as
Halo
it turns
5
out,
was a big big disappointment to me.
And I'm on the outside on that. Like I'm not expecting a lot of people to come at me like, yeah, me too, Halo 5. Like there's very few of us, but I like the way that it felt. I thought it was really interesting.
One of us.
I didn't need it to be a Master Chief. I never deducted points from Halo 5 for it being like a lock and Master Chief kind of thing. I thought that was interesting.
That's one of the things I liked about it was it wasn't just a Chief story. So
and that's what Halo 2 did. Like I thought we liked Halo 2, but anyways, that's a whole other thing.
I like Halo. So I like the first 3 Halos very much so.
I just thought it was interesting that people were mad with Halo 5 that it was like split between 2 characters. When I'm like, didn't we already agree that this was okay after being mad about it? Not what I was
mad about. I actually did a whole podcast with Drew McMillan about all the things that I didn't like about that game. But that was actually surprisingly one of the things I liked about it was that it was split between 2 characters. But
I thoroughly enjoyed. I thought this was the best character development of the enemies ever in a Halo game. Like they did such a good job. They did. I hate to say it because I play them a lot, but they did what Ubisoft does with their villains, and they did that with here where I cared about the villains.
Yep.
And when you get those audio logs with that one villain, I cared about him in the end.
Yeah, there's got to be a spoiler cast in our future, you guys.
I cared about that guy in the end, and I was like, wow. Like, there was so much more to him, and then when you go through that gauntlet, let's call it, and I'm almost like, can I change my mind? You know what I mean? Like, that's what I was thinking in my head.
Now you know how I feel every time I play Final Fantasy 14. But anyways, we got to go. But before we go, Court plugs go.
Oh, okay. Yeah, me. I'll get out of my car and let you know that you can catch me on YouTube at XboxA, or you can find me on Twitter at XboxA or at Court Lalonde.
And Sean, where can people find you?
Click like and subscribe. We're so close to 1,000 subs. Please.
You guys are crushing it. First of all, thank you, Court, for being here, my friend. It was so fun to be playing this alongside you, and there's a couple of other us who I'm sure, checking out more content from you guys over there. We the Nerdy is going to have some content as well. It was so fun just to have a little group going and seeing where everybody was at. That was great. So glad that we could pair up and have you on the show today with us. People can find me on Twitch and Twitter at Sean Capri, Sean like Connery, Capri like the pants. And now that Halo is here, man, Halo Saturdays are going to be off the charts. Twitch.tv/Sean Capri, YouTube.com/Yumi Capri, Mr. Turford.
Very nice, my friend. And Court, again, just like Sean said, thank you so much again for being here, man. Really appreciate you taking the time out to hang out with us so late at night and talking about Halo. But of course, you can find me over on Twitter at Ryan Turford. You can find us on Twitter at Yumi Capri's, on YouTube at youtube.com/Yumi Capri, and on podcast services around the globe. So for Court Lalonde and Sean Capri, I'm Ryan Turford. This has been The Extra Mile, all about Halo Infinite, and we out.